So building on kind of why and how the slave trade happened, we're going to look at the consequences of the slave trade, but specifically we're going to focus on the consequences of Britain. Previously, when we talk about the slave trade, the immediate assumption is the USA and how it was kind of developed there, but actually Britain had quite a heavy involvement in the slave trade. So, I'm going to move myself to the corner again. So we've got two sources here. Source A shows Liverpool in the 1740s, before the slave trade became really important. And if we notice, the buildings are quite low rise, there's not many ships, it doesn't seem that busy on the dockyards. Source B shows Liverpool 40 years later in 1780, when the slave trade was very important. We can look at the improvements made into the buildings. They're much bigger because more trade is going through them. They're much more modern, it's much busier on the docks, and there's a load more ships sitting in docks ready to kind of transport goods and materials and slaves through the Middle Passage. So the port of Liverpool became very rich because of the slave trade. In 1771, Liverpool ships carried over 29,000 African slaves. A huge amount became rich from carrying the slaves to the West Indies. And other cities, including Glasgow, so not too far away from us in West Lothian, became super rich because of the tobacco grown and the trades and how that impacted the economy of the UK, Glasgow, Liverpool, and kind of Great Britain as a whole. So many thousands of people that sometimes probably never even seen a slave earned money from it by being directly involved or indirectly involved in the slave trade kind of business and organisation. So let's break that down. Who made the money? So slave merchants in Liverpool and Bristol made money from buying slaves in Africa and selling them in the West Indies. So they would buy slaves in Africa, they'd get transported to the West Indies, and they'd sell them to plantation owners, making money. Shipbuilders in Scotland, and in particular in Glasgow, where the shipbuilding industry was located, made money from the slave trade by making the ships that carried the slaves. More ships could carry more slaves, so more money could be made. So Glasgow shipbuilding made loads of money because they needed more ships. Weavers in Birmingham made money by making the cotton cloth that was traded in Africa for the slaves. So people in Africa would say, if you give me so much cotton, I'll give you so many slaves, and then these slaves could be, traded and transferred and bought and all sorts of things. So you didn't have to be directly involved in capturing the slaves and selling the slaves to be making money from them. Chain makers made money from the slave trade by making the chains that were used to tie up and chain the slaves so they couldn't escape. Sugar merchants in Greenock, again focusing on Scotland, made money by buying and selling the sugar that was produced by the work of slaves. So they'd buy it in, package it up, and sell it on. And sailors made money because they were working on the ships that transported the slaves, so they would get paid to work on the ships. So loads of people made money and benefited from the slave trade without directly ever maybe seeing or meeting a slave. So you have a task and a couple of questions to answer in your OneNote. So what I would like you to do from here is jump onto your OneNote, try and answer the questions. If you have any questions or any issues, jump into the post part of this Teams and let me know, or let someone know, and they'll be able to answer and help you out.